Incident response. Book definitions, proactive detection and reactive detection. In reality, is there such thing as proactive detection? No. The term itself is an oxymoron, isn't it? You can't proactively detect something. Closest you could get would be like sonar, right? But you can set the processes that detect stuff in place before something happens. You can get them up and running. You can tweak them properly. You can ensure that you know your baselines, right? In this case, the book is saying proactive means you have everything configured the way you want it. Reactive is much more of a behavioral status, anomaly detection. Triage. What's triage mean? Anybody watch MASH? Andy, what's triage?
You sort out what's got the most problematic and what's going to die right then, basically.
Exactly. That's, literally what it is. And I think it comes from a French term and from World War I, where they actually did those three groups, where this person can wait, this person needs to go to surgery, this one's going to die. Yeah. In this case, we're only doing 2 levels. We can do it based on a set of criteria where we've said this hits the threshold, this is an incident, or we can do it from a strategic perspective of, is this, if this incident occurs, will it impact the business at a certain level, monetarily, in terms of time to recovery, in terms of the amount of personnel it's going to affect, and that would help you elevate it to level of an incident. Different ways. The response itself, looking at it from different perspectives. Technically, you want to spend some time gathering data. Why not just turn the system off right away?
Memory.
Memory. What sort of memory? What are we talking about?
We're talking about the what's that?
Primary.
Yeah, the primary.
Primary, right? You don't want to lose anything that's volatile, right? If you turn it off, it might go away. Good. What might be in there that you could use? What kind of analysis are you going to do? What do you want to find out?
Network connections, live connections. It's big.
You mean has there been something that the
Hacker's still attached to you?
Good. And if that connection goes down, what are you telling the attacker? We know you were here, right? What else? What else might you be looking for? You might be looking for what the attack contained. You might be looking for other holes they punched in your security, right? In some circumstances, in some systems, you do want to just turn it off right away. It's going to depend on the nature of your organization and the nature of those systems and the nature of the data. You're going to want to get log files. You're going to want to see exactly what that attacker did, both so you can find out how bad the damage is, and when it comes time to prosecute somebody, you have some evidence. You're going to want to put mitigation strategies and recovery options in place depending on what systems you already have configured for that purpose. You might not want to take your system down right away because you might need your system to communicate outward. That might be an aspect that you want to consider when you're building your incident response plan. Should we have an out-of-band communication avenue to our support vendors, right? On-site assistance, you may have vendor reps on site who are there to be part of that incident response. You may have experts on the team for that. And you may want to be able to use your technology to actually impose the fixes after you've discovered what the problems are and come up with a solution. Management. How does management respond? Who's in charge of the response? What person or people?
Incident response team.
The response team should be. Especially the manager of the response team. Who makes the final call? Who makes the final call on whether something's, not whether it's an incident, I apologize. Who makes the final call upon when the incident is over, or which final solution to use in addressing the incident? Management. That's a management decision. You are supposed to guide them. You are supposed to advise them. You are supposed to give them a list of alternatives. And do nothing might be one of those alternatives. But they make the final call. It's their system. It's their organization. And legal. Legal wants to be a part of it for two big reasons. What are the two big reasons legal has to be involved in incident response?
In case you're confiscating somebody's system, you're not stepping over bounds.
Good. Evidentiary possibilities. They want to be there when it comes time to prosecute the wrongdoer, and they're going to tell you how to do it. If you do it wrong, not only might you lose the attacker, you might incur punishment on yourself by doing it wrong. What's the other thing? What's the other thing legal needs to be in the loop for? They want to know the level of the organization's liability. Remember we talked about due care and due diligence? They want to make sure that they're going to be able to say at some point later on, we identified the incident in accordance with professional standards. We approached the incident and responded to it in accordance with professional standards. It's what a reasonable person would have done with the same level of know-how in the same context. Does that make sense? Cool. All right. Eradication. Good word. Good. Andy, what does it mean to eradicate something? Before you can respond to something, you have to be able to identify it. That's obvious. You want to have a last known good that you can go back to or something else that will help you restore. Get rid of the root cause as opposed to the symptoms. Again, these are common sense notions. And you want to be able to, before you restore, you want to be able to address what the root cause was because you don't want it to recur right after you flip the switch and go back to normal operations. Also, try to find out if the attacker did any other damage while they were in there. And sometimes that can be one of the most difficult tasks. Going back to normal ops. You want to validate that it was successful. You want the system owners to be a part of it because they're the ones that use it every day. They're the ones that will be able to tell you if there's anomalous activity after the solution's been put in place. And you want to make sure that they're still able to do their job with the solution in place. The solution is necessarily changing something fundamental, changing a vulnerability. It may also change operations. You have to make sure that they're still able to do their job with that change in place. Afterwards, you write it up in a report. Why? Why do you write it down? If you don't write it down, didn't happen. There you go.
I'll remember tomorrow.
Absolutely. You want to look at issues that came up from the response. Why? What is it that you're going to improve? You're going to improve the response process itself in addition to the state of the organization. And you want to be able to present that report to the stakeholders. Name some stakeholders who want to see how you responded to an incident.
Stockholders.
Yep. Stockholders. Who? What?
Management.
Management wants to know. Absolutely. Did you do what you're supposed to do? Shareholders want to know, hey, are my assets being protected? What else? Starts with an R, the big one. Regulators want to know. They want to know that you responded the way you were supposed to, right? You did it with due diligence. You did it better than they would. Good. Gap analysis. Once again, we're taking a snapshot of the current. We have an idea of the goals for the future, and we want to create a roadmap to get from one to the other. When you are making your gap analysis, some of the things you want to identify are that single point of failure. Where is that place where if they just took out that one Jenga stick, the whole tower would collapse, right? You want to make sure that any processes that can be improved will be improved during that time. The gap analysis will tell you which ones they can. Is there ever a lack of resources? Is there always a lack of resources? Yes, we never have unlimited funding. We never have unlimited budgets. What does it mean to have lack of adequate handover between phases and personnel? What does that mean in our gap analysis?
It's that I'm not giving enough information to the next team.
Yeah. Does that ever happen?
Yes.
All right. Questions about that aspect of incident response. Let's talk about managing our security services.